Honorable Justice U. Lalit, Judge, Supreme Court of India, Honorable Justice Indra Banerjee, Judge, Supreme Court of India, Honorable Justice Aniruddha Bose, Judge, Supreme Court of India, Honorable Justice Bishwanath Shamaddar, Chief Justice, High Court at Sikkim, Honorable Justice Dipankar Dotto, Chief Justice, High Court at Bombay, Honorable Justice Shonjeev Banerjee, Chief Justice, High Court at Meghalaya, Honorable Justice Prakash Srivastav, Chief Justice, High Court at Calcutta, Honorable Justice T.S. Sivagnanam, Judge, High Court at Calcutta, Honorable Judges, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Calcutta High Court, in collaboration with the State Legal Services Authority, West Bengal, supported by the Department of Women and Children, Development and Social Welfare Government of West Bengal, and the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, more popularly known as UNICEF, I take great pleasure in welcoming you to today's program on raising awareness in human trafficking and child welfare. The subject of human trafficking, no doubt, constitutes and remains a significant problem. Illegal trafficking for purposes of commercial, sexual, or health exploitation and forced or bonded labor is something which stares us in the face even today. Child welfare concerns the safeguarding of children from violence, exploitation, abuse, and neglect. It is to specifically address these stark realities that today's program has been organized, and we have illustrious personalities and speakers to carry forward and discuss this subject in detail in the program which has been organized, which will continue for the day. Without further ado, I would request the learned dignitaries to come up on stage so that the program may start in full earnest. I would request Mr. Shabbar Rashidi, Registrar Judicial Service, High Court at Calcutta, to usher the Honorable Justice U. Lalit onto the stage. I would now request Shri Jayanto Kole, Shri Jayanto Kole, Registrar Original Side, High Court at Calcutta, will now usher the Honorable Justice Indra Banerjee on the stage. Shri Uday Kumar, Registrar, Inspection 1, High Court at Calcutta, will now usher Honorable Justice Aniruddha Bose on stage. Shri Amit Chakraborty, Registrar, Inspection 2, High Court at Calcutta, will usher the Honorable Chief Justice of the High Court at Calcutta on stage. Shri Anupam Mukherjee, Registrar, Commercial Courts Division, High Court at Calcutta, will now usher the Honorable Justice T.S. Sivanganam on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now to felicitate our distinguished guests. Felicitation of the dignitaries on stage will take place by presenting them with the traditional Uttoryo, created and designed by the women of self-help groups in Birbhum. There are also folders which have been created by the child inmates of the Bhavan Center, an NGO and organization for persons with disabilities, the Byanganan, situated at Howrah. The Honorable Justice U. Lalit will be felicitated by the Chief Justice of the High Court at Calcutta. Justice Indra Banerjee will now be felicitated by Justice I.P. Mukherjee. Justice Aniruddha Bose will be felicitated by Justice Harish Tandon. The Chief Justice, High Court at Calcutta, will be felicitated by Ananya Bandyopadhyay, Registrar General. Justice T.S. Sivagnanam will now be felicitated by Shri Uday Kumar, Registrar, Inspection 1. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for lighting of the inaugural lamp. May I humbly request the Honorable Justice Lalit and all other dignitaries on stage to kindly step forward and light the inaugural lamp, thus formally declaring our program open. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now request the Honorable Chief Justice of the High Court at Calcutta to deliver the welcome address.
Honorable Justice U. Lalit, Judge, Supreme Court of India, and Executive Chairman NALSA, Honorable Justice Indra Banerjee, and Honorable Justice Anirudh Bose, Honorable Judges of the Supreme Court of India, Honorable Justice Biswanath Samadar, Honorable Justice Deepankar Datta, Honorable Justice Sanjeev Banerjee, Honorable Chief Justices of High Court of Sikkim, Bombay, and Meghalaya, respectively, my fellow brother and sister judges, learned Advocate General, learned Additional Solicitor General, learned President and Secretary of the three wings of the bar, Mohammad Mohiuddin, Chief UNICEF, representatives from the District Administration and Police Administration, other distinguished guests, representatives of the press and electronic media, ladies and gentlemen. Very good morning to all of you. I'm extremely privileged to welcome Honorable Justice U. Lalit, an eminent, erudite, and immensely respected judge of the Supreme Court of India. His Lordship has been directly elevated as Judge of the Supreme Court of India on 13th of August 2014. As Executive Chairman of NALSA, His Lordship has repeatedly expounded the necessity of ensuring legal protection to the marginalized and vulnerable sections of the society. In the outreach program during the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, His Lordship has ensured that the National Legal Services Authority and all the state legal services authorities reach to every nook and corner of the country with the awareness program for making the beneficiaries capacitated enough to avail the benefits of the various welfare schemes and legal services. We are very happy to find Honorable Justice Lalit amongst us as the chief guest of this program. It also gives me immense pleasure to welcome Honorable Justice Indra Banerjee, Judge, Supreme Court of India. Her ladyship has been the 8th female judge of the Supreme Court of India. Her ladyship had been the chairperson of the Calcutta High Court Legal Services Authority for almost 4 years, and had also officiated as the executive chairman of the West Bengal State Legal Services Authority for almost a year till her ladyship's transfer as judge of the Delhi High Court. I am also extremely pleased to welcome Honorable Justice Anirudh Bose, Judge, Supreme Court of India, whose vast and immaculate knowledge in various subjects, in addition to the field of law, is highly appreciated and recognized by all. His Lordship had been the executive chairman of the State Legal Services Authority, West Bengal, and also the patron-in-chief of Jharkhand State Legal Services Authority. We are also delighted to have amongst us Honorable Justice Biswanath Samadar, Chief Justice, High Court of Sikkim, Honorable Justice Dipankar Datta, Chief Justice, High Court of Bombay, and Honorable Justice Sanjeev Banerjee, Chief Justice, High Court of Meghalaya. For holding this program, we have received immense support from and cooperation from the Department of Women and Child Development and Social Welfare, West Bengal, and UNICEF West Bengal. I welcome their principal officers who are present here. I also welcome all the dignitaries who are present here to grace this occasion. Human trafficking and child welfare are two live and important issues relevant for this state. Hence, they have been focused in today's theme. State of Bengal, West Bengal is the source, transit, and destination point for trafficking, since it shares a long border with Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan. Districts of North 24 Pargana, South 24 Pargana, Murshidabad, Nadia, Jalpaiguri, Darjeeling, Malda, Cooch Behar, and Dakshin Dinajpur are most traffic-prone areas. West Bengal is the source and transit area for trafficking in places like Mumbai, Delhi, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Pune, and even Arabian countries. Demand of human trafficking is generally for prostitution, forced labor, bonded labor, smuggling, illegal adoption, forced marriage, domestic work, begging, organ transplant, and other exploitative form of work. The main target of human trafficking are women and children, and mostly persons who have low income or low level of education. Many a time, young girls running away from home are targeted, and people who lack awareness of their right, they are exploited. Once the victim falls into the trap of human trafficking, he or she loses support from the family and suffers from loss of education and psychological trauma. Hence, adequate rescue, recovery, and rehabilitation measures are required to bring them back to the mainstream with the help of CWCs, free legal aid, legal community groups, NGOs, etc. Another important topic for deliberation today is the child welfare. Everybody knows that children are national asset, and the future well-being of a nation depends upon its policies of child care and development. In a changing scenario and changing dimensions of life, protection of children from all kinds of exploitation and abuses has become an important issue. There have been instances of child exploitation in the form of sexual molestation, child marriage, underfeeding, verbal abuses, child battering, child prostitution, child labor. which directly or indirectly highlight the need to take effective steps to protect the future generation. Environment and surroundings have deep impact on children owing to their developing mind. Is that it is of utmost importance that suitable atmosphere is provided to their growth and development, and they are given adequate care and protection of law, regardless of fact whether they are in conflict with law or not. No notion can flourish if its children suffer. Therefore, India, with the help of various international, national, and state mechanisms, has always made endeavor to secure right of children. I hope and believe that today's program will witness deliberations leading to meaningful revelation to augment and consolidate the justice delivery system to serve better to the teeming masses waiting for justice. I, on my behalf and on behalf of the High Court of Calcutta, heartily welcome all the parties in today's program. Thank you and namaskar.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request the Honorable Justice Aniruddha Bose, Judge, Supreme Court of India, to kindly address this august audience.
Honorable Justice U.U. Lalit, Judge, Supreme Court of India and Executive Chairman, National Legal Service Authority, Honorable Justice Indra Banerjee, Judge, Supreme Court of India, and both of them senior colleagues of mine, Chief Justice of Calcutta High Court, Honorable Sri Prakash Srivastava, Justice Vishwanath Shamaddar, Chief Justice of Sikkim, Honorable Justice Dipankar Datta, Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, Honorable Justice Shunjib Banerjee, Chief Justice of Meghalaya, Justice Sivagnanam, and my fellow judges, brother and sister judges. It's in a way as homecoming for me, and I should not also leave out the learned Additional Solicitor General, Advocate General, Senior Counsel, and the members of the District Judiciary, as also the Registry. Good morning to you all. We can look forward today for a intellectual exercise, a stimulating intellectual exercise, and also knowledge sharing on two very important subjects of contemporary legal relevance, that is child rights and trafficking. I congratulate Chief Justice Prakash Srivastava for organizing this program in Kolkata, and the Honorable Chief Justice himself has explained the importance of these two subjects so far this area of the city is concerned. And there is also an underlying interconnection between the two subjects as legal topics. Human trafficking largely involve children, and the girl child in particular. If we look from the international perspective, a jurisprudence is slowly emerging on child rights. Laws relating to gender justice or injustice, civil liberties, etc., have largely originated from social and legal philosophies, works of experts in the field, anchored on theoretical works. But there is little theoretical writing available, I may be wrong, kindly correct me, for the evolving jurisprudence of child rights. It has been mostly a collaboration of the legal community, psychologists, law enforcement agencies, and activists which have resulted in legislations, large number of legislations in this field. Of course, backed by various UN conventions. Every child comes with the message that God is still not discouraged of human beings. This is an oft-quoted passage from Rabindranath Tagore, but when I look around, it raises doubt on my impatient human mind as to how long this divine confidence will last. I'll give a small example. You go to any busy intersections of any Indian city, and you will find young children actually begging but masquerading as balloon sellers or flower sellers. They ought to be in childcare homes. And so far as this city is concerned, you go to the 7 Point Crossing, in Park Circus, at any time of the day, and till late evening you will find that. On statute book, there are preventive means, and I am hopeful as the number of children engaged in that capacity are reducing in number. This morning I will not trot out all the legislations on children or trafficking. All of you are aware of the legislations, and I guess in the business sessions in the second part of the day, you will discuss the efficacy of the implementation problems from the lens of judges and activists. But I shall indicate the change in approach of the global community in the social engineering efforts to improve the lot of the children. Andrew Brenning, a 13-year-old boy in 1801, was hanged in England. That was an enlightened England that time, for stealing a spoon. That was the kind of offense for which capital punishment was still available. Well, laws started surfacing to prevent such a situation, but the first generation legislations mainly were protective in nature, protecting children from exploitation, like prohibiting property transactions involving minors, decriminalizing certain penal acts undertaken by a child. The modern jurisprudence that is developing in this field is mainly focused on rehabilitation. If charged with an offense, a separate justice delivery avenue, separate places of detention have been put in place. Many victims of human trafficking excuse me, who were earlier branded as accused are now treated as victims. As I have already stated, large number of victims of human trafficking are children, and here possibly the two topics which are being deliberated upon merge. I would call human trafficking the third phase of slave trade. The first one started from the time of Spartacus and continued till mid-19th century in US and Europe. Possibly the country Liberia derives its name from Liberty, the first batch of freed slaves who had set up that country. The second phase, it changed the name, indentured labor, and mostly our predecessors from various parts of the country were victim of that. Possibly in 1824, the first boat left Calcutta, taking the indentured laborer to Mauritius and different parts of West Indies, Fiji. The third phase, which is operating now, we call it human trafficking. And we are yet to evolve an effective international mechanism to prevent that. All of you are aware of this reasonably well-off family from Gujarat who froze to death in the border of Canada, USA a couple of months back. That was also human trafficking. Now, what are you going to achieve today? Of course, you have got the program out. But in my view, every seminar, workshop, conclave, whatever name you call them, have three broad aims. The first is identifying the trouble points. The second, knowledge and experience sharing. And the third is the coming up with possible solutions which can benefit others as well. We have very capable chairs for the second session, chairs, co-chairs, and participants in today's program. And I hope there will be some concrete solutions suggested at the end of the day's program, which we may share across the country. Again, possibly through the respective judicial academies. I won't take further time today. Thank you for calling me, Chief, here. And
I will now request the Honorable Justice Indra Banerjee, Judge, Supreme Court of India, to kindly address us.
My esteemed colleague, Justice UU Lalit, Executive Chairperson of the National Legal Services Authority, Judge, Supreme Court of India, my esteemed colleague, Justice Aniruddha Bose, Justice Prakash Srivastav, Chief Justice, Calcutta High Court, Justice Shivanyanan, Judge of this court, Justice Bishwanath Shomadar, Chief Justice, Sikkim High Court, Justice Deepankar Dotto, Chief Justice, Bombay High Court, Justice Sanjeev Banerjee, Chief Justice, Meghalaya High Court, my brother and sister judges of Calcutta High Court, the Additional Solicitor General, Mr. Dastur, Advocate General, Mr. S.N. Mukherjee. Gopal was almost slipping out. Former Additional Solicitor General and former Advocate General of West Bengal, Mr. Anindya Mitra, other members of the bar present here today, the judicial officers present here today, the Registrar General and the members of the registry, and other judicial officers present here today, members of the NGOs present here today, my dear students, representatives of the UNICEF, and of course, the officials representing the state. A very good morning to all of you, and I wish you all Shubho Noboborsho in advance, and Putnanda Valtakal to Justice Shivanyanan in advance. I congratulate the Chief Justice and the judges of the Calcutta High Court for organizing this program on raising awareness on human trafficking and child welfare. The importance of awareness in this area hardly needs to be emphasized. And I would just quote from a publication of the United Nations on combating human trafficking in Asia. It reads, "The judiciary is one of the most important sectors that need to be sensitized on gender issues and violations of rights of women due to trafficking. An analysis of the attitude of judges reveals a protectionist approach in their judgment of criminal cases against trafficking. The sensitive judges and trial magistrates have ensured victim-friendly ambience in the court to the extent possible. The proceedings in the court need to be monitored so that even the defense does not indulge in re-victimization and traumatization of the victims. It is important to note that even when the matter reaches courts, witnesses turn hostile, making it very difficult for the prosecution and the victims to avail justice." Another report of the Department of Women and Child Development, along with UNICEF, on 6 workshops which were conducted in 1996 with regard to sexual exploitation and traffic, said, "The judiciary is accused of playing a role in secondary victimization by its mode of questioning during court procedures, the long, tedious legal processes, and legal system is seen to be forbidding for victims who seek justice rather than deterring those who commit injustice." Over the last 4 or 5 decades, trafficking in human beings has assumed alarming proportions and has become a major cause of global concern. About 28% of the trafficked human beings are actually children. As pointed out by the Honorable Chief Justice of this court, the state of West Bengal is a place of origin, it's a transit point, and it is a destination for victims of trafficking. Trafficking in human beings has today become the 3rd largest organized transnational crime after arms trafficking and trafficking in drugs. The cases have to be dealt with sensitivity. International organizations, governments, NGOs, civil societies have been focusing their attention to the problem of trafficking and have been trying to devise ways and means of effectively checking and preventing trafficking. After I was appointed a judge of this court on 5th February 2002, for about 4.5 years, I was the only woman on the bench. And being the only woman on the bench for 4.5 years, I was invited to many of the legal awareness programs which were held. And these programs actually gave me an insight to the problem of trafficking and various other women's issues. It is one thing to read the text. So far as law is concerned, the judicial officers all know the laws. Others also know the law. It is also one thing to read the various precedents, the judgments. But the audio-visual media has an altogether different impact, and so does interaction with victims of the crime, as also the persons who actually deal with such victims on the spot. I still remember that on one occasion, through Miss Anuradha Kapoor of Swayam, I was introduced to a victim of trafficking. This is an instance of how women are trafficked and forced into prostitution. Of course, I must point out that it is not only women who are trafficked, men are also trafficked, children are trafficked, men are trafficked for the purpose of forced labor, so on and so forth. Children, the girl child is often trafficked for the purpose of sexual abuse. Other children are trafficked for various other purposes. They are used as couriers for drug peddling. They are used to carry out crimes. But for the time being, we'll confine ourselves to trafficking of women and trafficking of the girl child. Some of the women are forcefully trafficked and driven to prosecution by sheer use of force. They are kidnapped. In other cases, they are lured by offers of job, offers of loans. In some cases, they are deceived even by proposals of marriage and fake love affairs, and then ultimately trafficked. This victim, this survivor, who I had met through Anuradha Kapoor of Swayam, still the thought of my meeting with her still gives me goose pimples. She did not have parents. She was being brought up by an aunt, a so-called aunt of the locality, allured her to go to Bombay with the offer of a job. She went to Bombay. She was straight put up in a brothel. From day one, she had to satisfy various men, multiple men the same day. She was a child because she was much less than 18, she was less than 16 years of age. She managed to escape with the help of a kind client to whom she had spoken about her woes. Thereafter, I think she was rescued by some journalists, handed over to the NGO. This survivor just caught my hand and said, Ma'am, madam, what wrong have I done? I wanted to earn. My aunt was not in a position to feed me. I thought I would be able to earn some money by working in a restaurant, as I was told, and I would be able to ensure that she got her meals and I also got 4 square meals to fill my stomach. One of her clients had insisted on unprotected sex. She became pregnant. She had contracted HIV. She was HIV positive. She just held my hand and said, "Ma'am, I want to live. I want to live." This is how many women often get into trafficking. On another occasion, we met and heard a survivor, a rescued victim, who herself was running an NGO and working for the cause of sex workers, trying to rescue and rehabilitate them. When you hear their stories, you really get to understand the difficulties of rehabilitation of these poor victims. Once they are trafficked, very often they are not accepted by their own families. They are not accepted by society. They are looked down upon. Very sorry to say, people look upon them as available commodities to be preyed upon. Sometimes some unscrupulous elements of law enforcing agencies also take advantage of them, and I would say rape them, because the definition of rape is sexual intercourse without consent, and even a sex worker has the right to say no and has the right of choice. But the law enforcing agencies, making use of their powers, abuse these women and get away scot-free without even making any payment. And this happens not just here, but all over the country. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations on 10th December 1948, recognizes the inherent dignity of human beings. Article 1 provides that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. The human rights enumerated in the various articles are equally applicable to all. Trafficking is in gross violation of the human rights of the victims. The purpose of trafficking is exploitation. The victims are sexually exploited and forced into prostitution, used for criminal acts, so on and so forth. It has adverse effects. Anyone who can become victim of trafficking, but there are certain vulnerable sections of the society, and they are generally the underprivileged, illegal immigrants, innocent children who are easily lured, the homeless, persons from broken homes, victims of child abuse, so on and so forth. When I was in Chennai, I had occasion to meet some children of the Bachpan Bachao Andolan. There was one child who was kept captive in a plantation near Coimbatore just because of a meager loan which had been taken by the parents. The child was made to work from morning to night. After dark, the child was scared. Think of the psychological effects on the child. The time is short, we are running late. I'll just conclude because we are all waiting to hear Justice Lalit. In May 2011, India ratified the United Nations Convention on Transnational Organized Crime. This convention has been supplemented by some protocols, including the protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children. Protocol against smuggling of migrants by land, sea, and air. India has ratified the SARC Convention. We have an obligation to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking effectively. In June 2005, a memorandum of understanding was executed between Bangladesh and India for bilateral cooperation for prevention of human trafficking between the two states. As pointed out a little earlier, a considerable proportion of the trafficked human beings are children. Today's children are the adults of tomorrow. The National Policy for Children, 1974, formulated by the Government of India, declared that children are the supreme asset of the nation. They are the future of the nation. The future of the nation depends on how its children grow and develop. Who is a child? And what is in the welfare of the child? Under the Juvenile Justice Act, anyone who is below 18 years of age is a child. Under the Indian Majority Act, it is 18. Under the Indian Penal Code, a child below 7 cannot commit an offense. Is the age only a number? Is there much difference between a person who is, let us say, 17 and a half years of age and a person who is 18 years and 1 month? I mention this in the context of certain laws for the protection of women, for the protection of children, which are interpreted by the judicial officers day in and day out. There are cases under the POCSO. These are cases of affairs between college students, maybe a child, a child, but a child 17 years and 11 months of age, and a boy, maybe of the same class, who is 18 years and 1 month in age. Now, just as the Juvenile Justice Act has been replaced. The earlier Act of 2000 has been replaced by the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015 to bring in the concept of heinous crime and make persons who are above 16 years of age liable as adults in certain cases if the child welfare board so directs. Perhaps the time has come to think of an amendment in the law to deal with such cases where complaints are lodged at the instance of third parties, not even the parties who are actually involved in the relationship. Similarly, what is in the welfare of the child? What are the rights that a child has? And what constitutes child abuse? These are complex issues which are often oversimplified. There are multidimensional concepts of what is in the best interest of the child. This has to be assessed with a sensitive approach, having regard to the background and the situation of the child. It is often said that to spare the rod is to spoil the child. And not too long ago, rods were actually used lest the child should be spoiled, to discipline the child. In the 19th century, whoever thought of the rights of the child? The parents, the family, took care of the child in their own way. They grew up as per the wishes of the parents. All decisions with regard to children were taken by parents as per their own ideas of what was right and what was wrong. Today, ideas have changed. These also need to be discussed with more and more divorces. Issues of child custody arise in various cases in different courts, even before the Supreme Court. I have taken more time than was allotted to me. I apologize to Justice Lalit. I wish this program a grand success, and I just end with one personal example. As I said, no amount of reading has the same impact as actual interaction with a victim. I was immensely close to my father, who was my friend, philosopher, guide. I kind of hero worshipped him. And I was absolutely devastated when he passed away, though I was 36 years of age then, not a child, exactly. I could not have imagined that any father could possibly sexually abuse a child. And had I not met this victim who had actually been molested and exploited by her own father, I would have rejected any application as what rubbish. Any application in which it was contended that the father had abused the child, as you know, what rubbish is this? A few days back, we refused to grant post-conviction bail to a man convicted for having raped his own 9-year-old daughter. But for my experience with victims, I would probably have thought that this was all rubbish. So I wish this program a grand success, and thank you very much for patiently listening to me. And once again, I thank the Chief Justice and the judges of this court for giving me the opportunity to be back here amongst you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for the release of certain books. There is an activity book on Pan-India legal awareness and outreach campaign as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, launched by the National Legal Services Authority. There is the West Bengal State Legal Services Authority internship policy. There is a book on frequently asked questions on West Bengal Victim Compensation Scheme of 2017. In fact, in connection therewith, I would request Muhammad Mohiuddin, Chief of UNICEF, and Ms. Shanghamitra Ghosh, Principal Secretary, Department of Women and Child Development and Social Welfare, West Bengal, to kindly come up on stage and be part of the program. The fourth book is the Calcutta High Court Legal Services Committee. Muhammad Mohiuddin and Ms. Shanghamitra Ghosh, would you please come up on stage? I would now humbly and most respectfully request Justice U. Lalit to formally release these books together with the other dignitaries present on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, It's time now for the keynote address. May I humbly and most respectfully request the Honorable Justice U. Lalit, Judge, Supreme Court of India, to kindly deliver the keynote address for this inaugural session.
My esteemed colleague, Honorable Justice Indra Banerjee, my esteemed colleague, Honorable Justice Aniruddha Bose, Honorable Chief Justice, Sikkim High Court, Vishwanath Chamaddar, Honorable Chief Justice, Bombay High Court, Justice Dipankar Dotto, Honorable Chief Justice of Meghalaya High Court, Justice Sanjeev Banerjee, Honorable Chief Justice and Patron-in-Chief of West Bengal State Legal Services Authority, Justice Prakash Srivastav, Honorable Justice, the Calcutta High Court and Honorable Chairperson of State Legal Services Authority, Justice Shivagnanam, all the honorable judges of the Calcutta High Court, the learned Additional Solicitor General, Mr. Dastoor, the learned Advocate General for the state, Mr. Mukherjee, the former Advocate General, Mr. Mitro, all the learned senior counsel who are present here, all the advocates who are present here, all the learned speakers who are going to address us in various sessions, all the members of the judiciary, the persons from media, all the persons who are working towards the goals of Legal Services Authority, ladies and gentlemen. I must first of all congratulate the organizers for organizing seminar like this. Did you notice the pictures which are there in the foyer? These are pictures made by children, some of them from juvenile justice homes, some of them maybe by children who are in conflict of law. That shows the emotions, that shows the cry for justice at times. And look at this particular symbol behind us, those palms getting extended, seeking support. And what lies within that is the protection given by someone, something like Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. And there's that family inside that. So we will assure you similar kind of protection which is normally extended to a family, persons who are brought up in a family. That's a very apt and vivid description of what exactly is the subject and what we are trying to achieve. As some of my predecessors who have spoken on the subject, Justice Aniruddha Bose and Justice Banerjee, there are various dimensions to human trafficking. In today's world, human trafficking for sexual exploitation is one. Human trafficking for forced labor, bonded labor is second part of it. It could be also for organ trade. It has many dimensions. It's very difficult to deal with every single dimension in a symposium like this in the shortest possible time. But let us deal with on a broader spectrum, on a broader level, and what we normally find, as Justice Srivastava also put it, there is a source, there is a transit area, and there is a destination. Just as Aniruddha Bose put it, one of the ships sailed from Calcutta harbor. Destination was supposed to be Mauritius. So therefore, in every trafficking case, there would be source, there would be destination. And of course, in order to reach the destination, some of the areas could be transit areas. The trafficking can be seen, checked, arrested, and protection can be given in either of these three areas. What kind of dimensions can we look forward to or can we think of? One is, of course, prevention. That's the basic. Second is protection. Third is rehabilitation. And the fourth is prosecution of the wrongdoer. So the entire matter can be seen from 4 different levels. I call it PPRA. Prevention, protection, rehabilitation, PPRP, and then prosecution. Normally, and we always see movies like, say, Slumdog Millionaire or even Oliver Twist, and our interface with that world is only through such works of art or video, audio presentation that we are fortunate to even see such presentations. Very few of us actually see that world. I'll tell you my experience. Just few months back, I visited a particular center run by a lady which was designed to give solace to those ladies who are in prostitution. She runs a creche in that area. I asked her, are you not encouraging that? Because these ladies leave their children with her so that they can go on with their normal activity. She said, what else can be done? If you don't provide creche, these are the most vulnerable subjects who can be, they are next to crucible. If there's a girl child, then imagine what will be the fate of that girl child living in that area, living with persons who are regularly working in that profession. So I provide them a creche. I provide education to such children. And what the normal activity is, at 5:30 in the evening, the mothers come there, leave their children for overnight stay in that center. In that period, the lady runs a school so that the children are educated. And after the sunrise, the children are sent home. Now one may say that perhaps I think this is a very difficult activity. I then had word with 30 odd ladies who are regularly using the services of that creche. One can't ask the reasons that why these ladies are there. We sympathize with their plight, their trauma. But common thread running through every life was this, that all those ladies were clear in life that whatever we have suffered, our children should not suffer. and therefore they were seeing to it that their children get education. Some of those ladies, I thought that prostitution is always forced upon. It may be forced upon, but then perhaps I think the economic compulsions of certain families, certain sections are such that perhaps ladies are driven to that level. We'll deal with that part later. Going again on my experience, this particular center is being run by that lady for last 35 years. So imagine the first batch of students or the children who may be 3 or 4 years of age. Today they are 30, 35 years of age. So I wanted to have a word with those children. Some of them came there. And I must say, there were engineers, there were people who are employed, who are doing well in society, and none of them wanted to be part of that world which their mothers had to undergo. So what lies at the core? What lies at the core is actually prevention. Very well, very nice thing to say. How does one actually achieve that? Most of these exploitations are compulsions. Either the situational compulsion, or the circumstantial compulsion, or the economic compulsions. Of course, there are forced upon. So in those cases, a victim can be rehabilitated. But in a case where it is the compulsions, economic compulsions, the victim comes back there. So how does one arrest that? One of the areas could be, take the very same flame which is right to education and see to it that every child, it is now his constitutional right to get education, that we provide, we select all such children so that at least in near future we will be able to attain a level where every child will be educated, so the economic compulsions may not drive somebody to that level. I have seen on that interaction that at times the parents themselves sell their children. We heard one example coming from Justice Indra Banerjee where the exploitation was done by the father. At times, poor families are driven to such level where the parents themselves sell their children. If the children are educated, if the families are assured of that perhaps the future of my child will be secure, there will be less and less compulsions which can be marked as economic compulsions. What do we do on that front as NALSA or as legal services authorities? And this is what I have a suggestion, and what I have done, what I have learnt in last few months. 30th July is supposed to be the world, which is recognized as the World Day, Health Day, to stop trafficking in human beings. We are still 4 months away from that. I would suggest, I would request every state legal services authority in the country that we have large team of paralegal volunteers who are working under our legal services network. One more feature of the matter is that under Juvenile Justice Act, there is a office such as protection officer. That protection officer is supposed to be the nodal point where the protection to such children can be assured granted. Is supposed to be an interface between such victims and then the governmental machinery, where perhaps I think the machinery can be put to use, can be put in action, and the future of that child can be secured. We have large team of paralegal volunteers. Some of them who are willing, we can turn them into what is called protection assistants, who can work in tandem with the protection officers, see for themselves, be always on watch and guard, try to identify whoever are the victims. It is very easy when a child is actually drawn into human trafficking, because there can never be a consent, there can never be child labor. So it is easy for us to identify such persons and get them out of that dragnet. It may be slightly difficult for those who are above 18, but at least let us begin in that fashion. I have been having sessions with the Ministry for Child and Women Development, and we want to have such nodal points where these can be nodal officers who will be in touch with the society, those sections of the society, and can work as interconnection between the governmental machinery and the victims. If we start in right earnest, then in next 4 months, all that we can achieve at this juncture is to train all our paralegal volunteers to work as protection assistants. Maybe the very same protection assistants can then thereafter be absorbed as protection officers, so that there is a huge team of workers who can try to achieve. It's an impossible, it's a very, very gigantic task. But rather than organizing a symposium, letting a flame sort of burn for a while and then see it die down, the best possible course is that whatever we gather in such symposium, we take that flame across the length and breadth of the country and then take that awareness to every level. And that's my suggestion. So therefore today we are in the first week of April. Say today is Ashtami. Ashtami is supposed to be the day when we conquer our enemies. Correct? Very well, this is the enemy of the society. Let us resolve that in next 4 months, by 30th of July, every paralegal volunteer who is working under our network is equipped, is educated to deal with these problems, and not just take care of routine and mundane affairs of legal services. Try to expand your scope. Try to see that you are able to reach at the levels where perhaps those hands which are crying for justice can be given support. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Before Justice Shivagnanam delivers the formal vote of thanks, I would like to state that we have Mr. Utpal Bose, senior advocate today with us as an MC, who has been practicing in the High Court at Calcutta for more than 35 years, being a member of the Bar Library Club. Mr. Bose has graciously consented to compare today's program as he has done on innumerable events in the High Court in the past. May I now most humbly request Honorable Justice U.U. Lalit, Judge Supreme Court of India, to present Mr. Utpal Bose an Victoria and a memento as a token of appreciation. Thank you, Lordship. May I now request Mr. Justice T.V. Shivananam to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you is such a prayer that cannot be seen or touched. It must be felt by heart. I feel honored and privileged to have been given this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks on this very special occasion. First and foremost, we thank our chief guest, Honorable Justice U. Lalit, Judge Supreme Court of India, and the Executive Chairman of the National Legal Services of India for having accepted the invitation from the High Court at Calcutta and delivering a thought-provoking keynote address. We have noted what your lordships have suggested, and our day starts from Monday to implement the project. Your lordship has been instrumental in redefining the concept of legal services in the country. Having participated in several video conferences addressed by your lordship, I wish to state that your unique way of handling men and matters have changed the scenario. State Legal Services Authority of West Bengal has benefited by your guidance and support. The strenuous efforts put by your lordship has yielded magnificent results in all the national Lok Adalats, and each time the number of cases settled was increasing, surpassing past statistics. The periodic meetings chaired by your lordship created a great bond among the executive chairman of the state legal services authorities, each complementing the other, sharing best practices, etc. On behalf of the West Bengal State Legal Services Authority, I assure that we shall continue to put our best efforts to achieve the targets and goals set by NALSA. At this juncture, I wish to mention that in terms of the NALSA Victims of Trafficking and Commercial Sexual Exploitation Scheme 2015, West Bengal State Legal Services Authority has awarded compensation to 587 victims amounting to rupees 15 crores 81 lakhs 71,706. Out of these 587 victims, 26 victims were of human trafficking, and a compensation of rupees 66 lakhs 66,000 has been disbursed by the State Legal Services Authority. As a part of rescue and rehabilitation of such victims of human trafficking, we have empaneled as a panel advocate of DLSA Murshidabad after the madam had expressed her willingness to be part of the organization. Another such victim has been empaneled as a paralegal volunteer of the DLSA Darjeeling. And yet another transgender victim has been empaneled as a panel advocate in the DLSA North 24 Parganas district. In this regard, I should congratulate the learned chairman and secretaries of the DLSAs who are participating in today's program, the officers and staff of the West Bengal State Legal Service Authority for their unstinted cooperation and support. We once again thank your lordship for your presence with us in Calcutta and the continuing encouragement given to the West Bengal State Legal Services Authority. Honorable Mr. Justice Aniruddha Bose and Honorable Madam Justice Indra Banerjee, judges of the Honorable Supreme Court, it is homecoming for your lordships. We thank your lordships for having joined us in today's seminar and delivering eloquent speeches. Thank you, lordship. as I always address Honorable Justice Indra Banerjee as my chief. Thank you, Chief, for your Tamil New Year greetings, which incidentally falls on the day of the Bengali New Year as well. Once again, it is a homecoming for our three Chief Justices who are present here. Honorable Justice Biswa Samadar, Honorable Justice Dipankar Datta, and Honorable Justice Sanjeev Banerjee. We thank your Lordships for accepting the invitation and agreeing to deliver the keynote address in the technical sessions which are to follow. We sincerely thank your Lordships. Speaking for myself, I feel doubly lucky and proud to stand before you to thank my Chief Justices, Madam Justice Indra Banerjee, presently Judge of the Supreme Court, and Chief Justice Sanjeev Banerjee, under whom I have worked in the Madras High Court. Very rarely, a judge from another state, upon transfer, gets an opportunity to greet, welcome, and thank his former Chief Justices, that too in their own home state. It's a memorable day for me. Chief Justice Prakash Srivatsav had meticulously planned this program, taking painstaking efforts, which shows his commitment and zeal. We thank you, Lordships, for all that you have done to make this program a grand success. I thank all my brother and sister judges of the High Court at Calcutta for their participation, advice, guidance, and more particularly the honorable judges who have worked in tandem with the Honorable Chief Justice to plan this program. Our thanks are due to the Registrar General, the other registrars, the Member Secretary of NALSA, Director of NALSA, the Member Secretary of the State Legal Services Authority, the officers, staff, innumerable people who have been a pillar of support for this program. I thank the learned Additional Solicitor General, the learned Advocate General, the learned Senior Counsels, the law officers of the state, the presidents and secretaries of the three wings of the bar who have responded to our invitation and participated in the program. We thank the learned resource persons who are experts in their respective field for having agreed to speak on the topics in the technical session. We thank Madam Sangamitra Ghosh, IAS, Principal Secretary, Department of Women and Child Development and Social Welfare, for arranging a cultural program by the children from various childcare homes, which event we will witness shortly. I convey my good wishes to the young performers for a bright future. We thank Mr. Mohammad Modin, Chief of the UNICEF, having partnered with the High Court of Calcutta in today's program, and also agreeing to be one of the panel speakers in the technical session. Thank you, sir, and to your entire team. We thank the Principal Chief Secretaries to the Government of West Bengal, the Director General of Police, the top police officers, and all officials for your participation and support. Special thanks to the West Bengal Police for their support extended to the West Bengal State Legal Service Authority in all the National Lok Adalat program, organizing special drive, and also in the special drive which was flagged off by the Honorable Executive Chairman today morning. We thank the Government of West Bengal for their support and for arranging the event, today's event, and as well as this venue, and also for the to the Public Works Department for the excellent arrangement. A sincere thank to Mr. Utpal Bose, Learned Senior Counsel, for having volunteered to compare this event. Thank you, sir. We thank the press and media for your coverage of this program, and your coverage will send the message to the masses of this country. Thank you once again.